Some of you know as Jordan, my name's Simone Fit, and of course, Jay, Lucas, Jay, Robin. So here's the good news. We're in Mobile. Being in Mobile by itself is something that I look forward to from the time I leave to the time I get back. And whether or not you see the best players you've ever seen in your life, or you see players that aren't the best players in your life, you're seeing them in an environment where you're able to strip away some of the things that make it difficult to sort of sift through certain things, right? They get rid of scheme. They're running the simplest offense and the simplest defense humanly possible. They strip away level of competition. You're playing against everybody from everywhere, including, a kid they picked up last second from Canada who played, I'm not being mean at all, but I mean, it was a very different level of football from, when people say small school, like even if you're from Ferris State, you're playing a way higher level of competition than you're playing Larimer. And that's, no one would dispute that. But I'm going to ask, I guess I'll start with you. I mean, since you're the local celebrity now, I'll start with you. Start first, general impressions. What do you think of the whole experience you just had?
So like I said, this is my first Senior Bowl. First time I've ever been out here.
Woo!
It's great to be out here.
Good to break the seal on.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed it. Like, I think like I've always put it towards, like I told people this earlier. I'm like, it feels weird that I'm actually covering it because I watched this when I was 9 years old, like on TV. And I always try to tell people like, this is the start of when you understand context, and that's like the biggest thing is like we have all these questions and they're not all fully answered yet, but this is the beginning of when context starts to clear and when you start to learn about players. And I thought it was a blast. It was great to see a bunch of players ready to compete. It was a blast to do all the events, obviously still going on. I just had the time of my life, honestly.
Yeah, and I hope this is the first of many times.
I hope so.
Same question for you, Jay. What are your sort of overall impressions of the week you've had so far?
Well, it's been a wonderful week. This is my second Senior Bowl. Last year was my first. A lot of fun then, and again, shout out to Mobile. They do a wonderful job. It's certainly been a lot more of a low-key Senior Bowl because this year it's not Mardi Gras. It's not streets packed with people from all, not just the NFL world, but from all walks of life. Definitely more of a focused event right now, but I really enjoyed it. Meeting the players was great, getting to know more about their backstory, their history, their personality, because we can like grind a tape, we can check stats, we can go through the analytics, but we can't find out who these guys are until we actually get to meet them face to face. So I think that's one of the biggest parts of this event is just figuring out the stories behind these players.
The opportunity to talk to them and to get a sense of who they really are. And yes, they've had media training, and yes, but a person who's naturally awkward or shy, no matter, you could media train them for 1,000 years, they're going to still be awkward, shy, and you can't wait for this to be over.
And you got to feel them.
And you got to come to those, right? And then the ones who, they can't wait for somebody to walk over to them, like, hey, I want to talk, right? The talkers, there's no hiding that either, right? You can tell the ones that want to be asked questions, who want to tell their story, who want to let you know, here's who I am, here's why I'm here, here's where I came from, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. And this is an awesome opportunity for everybody, right? I don't care if you're an NFL, general manager or scout, or if you are a person who's involved in media, or if you're an agent, or one of the prospects. There's so many things you can do in terms of the football stuff, but there's also the connections and the people that you maybe didn't have an opportunity you may have heard of or even dealt with but didn't know them. I'm going to say one quick thing and then we'll sort of talk about play. The reason we came down here, look at football players. I've seen this go from a very loosely organized event where people just there were years when you could literally just walk into the team hotels, right, and see who was going to meet with whom. That is very much gone. They have tightened up tremendously regarding things like that. You used to be able to overhear all kinds of stuff in hotel lobbies, who liked who really didn't like who. I'm not going to name any names, but I remember our Raiders offensive line coach hated that player. I mean, like, it seemed almost draft, that seemed like the same draft where I met our friend Mike Canyon. And, the Raiders end up drafting the same guy, and he's going insane. This is back in the days of Blackberries and Palm Treos for those who are a certain age. And so he takes the Palm Treo out from one of the interns and says, you know, dial someone's number, and he's just, it is a tapestry of profanity, of a complexity and like variation in both color, depth, and weight that you rarely will see or hear. It takes an offensive line coach to curse someone out like that. So that's something that's gone, right? But it's not I don't think that's a bad thing, because I can see NFL teams used to have all kinds of leaks also in those days. So I think that's probably one of the reasons that the whole unfettered wandering around access is so much gone. I don't think guys go out and drink as hard as they used to, at least most of them don't. But you'd hear all kinds of stuff, because guys would get, 5, 6 drinks in, and they would tell you what they really thought about players. And so, yeah, I used to get a little bit of inside information, but that's changed. I'm gonna start with you this time. If you think there's a player or a handful of players that you know there are questions about, you just answer those questions in such a way that an NFL team that was looking at them now says, oh yeah, no, this is one of our guys. They're still gonna gather information, because the process is still very early, but you can tell when a team has at least gotten to the point where like, this guy is on our board, and he's probably moving up our board. Who are some of the guys you think established that they can be trusted, like we're putting it, as a prospect?
Well, what I like to say is that the small school guys, they've never had to go up against competition quite like this before on tape. We see all the tape and stats. We don't get the contest of them going up against the best of the best. Now, we finally get to see these guys in action, and so some small school guys who really, really impressed over this week. David Walker out of Central Arkansas he had a little bit of a slow burn to start, but then he really caught on in day 2, day 3. He was winning with a lot of speed off the edge. It was hard for a lot of these tackles to keep up with him. Very, very impressive individual right there. Very low center of gravity as well. Very bendy.
Almost Doomerville-esque, yeah.
He certainly earned some money this week. And another small school guy as well, on the other side of the trenches, Zabel. Zabel out of North Dakota State. He is from a long line of good family of athletes, but he is certainly stands out. Like, he already was known as a powerhouse player in the FCS with North Dakota State. He was predominantly a tackle, but this time in Senior Bowl, he slid both the guards, which he did have some snaps at guard. But what was really interesting is he went in at center. He only had 17 collegiate snaps at center, and he did very, very well against a very interesting defensive tackle group. I was very impressed with him.
Yeah, he was one of the 2 interior FCS line guys, and both guys helped themselves. But Zabel has been the talk of Mobile. He's one of the probably 2 or 3 most discussed guys the whole week. Same question for you. Who are some of the guys you think sort of solidified or answered questions about themselves?
So I think Zabel's obviously a big one. The funny thing is too, if you asked any D lineman over interviews, most of them didn't even know his name. They would tell you though, they're like, that North Dakota State kid. That North Dakota State kid, that's all I said. One of them told me, I think his name's Z.
He's not wrong.
But I think like going off of your point, piggybacking just like the small schools sticking out, I think there's another side to it too, where it's like you might be at a bigger school, but you don't stick out as much as your teammates do. And then like all of a sudden you see like more answers to things, because the guy, like, I haven't even heard anyone really talking about it, Sorrell, the Texas A&M. I thought he had a brilliant Senior Bowl. And like the thing is too, like you see, because he doesn't really have like the athletic crazy pop, but everything is so smooth. You watch the drills, it's smoother than everybody else. You watch the drills as he's going, and then he's just playing with all the offensive linemen because they don't really know what they're doing with their feet yet. And that's like the fun part, because like you're literally just watching him, it feels like he's just putting them in grade school. He was having the time of his life out there. Nobody's talking about it. It like blows my mind.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I think what overshadowed him, he doesn't have one of those viral reps like Mike Green has, right?
Yeah.
He didn't bury somebody. He didn't suplex anybody. He didn't embarrass somebody in that kind of way, right?
Yeah.
He had a bunch of really good reps. Didn't lose many reps. I think Mimbu may have given him a tough go once or twice, but went 80% of his reps. And he did it in a way that wasn't loud, right? I had the opportunity to sit behind his mom on, yesterday. That behind his mom yesterday. And, she's obviously very much into it. But he's a terrific young man. A lot of these guys are just fantastic beings. He is a guy who's getting it, right? You can see him. I mean, this guy's had 5.5, 6 sack seasons, so it's not like he's a guy that doesn't know what he's doing. But he's a guy that was on a super deep, super talented defensive line, right? I mean, as you said, getting a little lost in the sauce. But when you look at him, and he's not being overshadowed, he has that combination. Is he the sort of freak show that a guy like Shamar Stewart is? No. Is he a guy, like I said, has a great viral moments like Mike Green? No. But I would say that he's in the top 3 or 4 most consistent defensive linemen here, and he's another guy that, once again, you can do more than one thing with him. Because he has a big frame, and you could ask him to put more weight on, or you have to take the weight off, but he's a football player, right? I mean, it's one of those sort of classic cliche things to say, but you could easily see the guys that are like all ball. Jack Kaiser's all ball, right? Jack Besh, right? All ball. That guy, literally, like, they told him to go catch balls in the parking lot, he'd do it. He gives. I said, like, you're clearly not playing not to get hurt. He said, no, man, I don't care. That guy is going to be great on special teams, and he's going to be that possession receiver that is willing to get absolutely annihilated to get to that 6 yards on 3rd and 6.
Well, speaking of wide receivers too, it's like it's kind of the same idea as Sorrell. Like, nothing viral is gonna stick out. Kyle Williams put together a lot of really solid days back to back, and it was literally like he wasn't doing anything fancy at all. It was just like you get open, you get a catch, and you see it every time. Like, well, nothing fancy happened out of it, but like every time he went down, he's got another catch. If there was stats in Senior Bowl practices, he probably lead the league in catches.
Probably.
Yeah, it wasn't the viral touchdowns, it wasn't breaking ankles, but it was the possession.
Yeah. He didn't moss anybody.
Great curls.
Yeah. But Jameson Crowder is going to collect game checks for a really long time. Like, you don't have to be spectacular.
100%.
It's cool if you can, do all that fancy stuff and, go jump up over guys in one hand, all that, but that's not his game, and doesn't have to be. I'm agreeing with you on him. I think that for most of the wide receivers, and everybody had at least almost 1 or 2 good moments. Like, if you want to go through the entire list of receivers, people will not do. But, Jaden Higgins has some good moments, and Jalen Knoll has some good moments, and Jalen, that has some good moments. There's a lot of receivers, a lot of Jalen's.
I was thinking of Smith, but of course he's corner.
He's a corner.
Yes.
But there's 2 wide receiver Jalen's. There's a Jaden, which doesn't help. You can find at least, and like I said, Besh made a lot of the most difficult catches. He's not a guy that creates a lot of separation naturally, but he doesn't need a lot of separation, right? He doesn't care if you're riding on his shoulders, he's going to still go catch the ball. And I thought a couple of running backs showed he could really catch the ball well. Besh had some really good reps. Trevor Etienne, Trevor, right?
Trevor,
Just making sure, yeah. Had some good catches. I think that the funny thing is, like, the bigger backs, Oliver, Ollie, Gordon, and a few other guys, it's not set up for them the same way, right? I mean, you can't show off the thing that you do best in a non-taxing environment. But to his credit, as the top-rated back, he came here, stayed the whole time, and participated in everything, and that's a check mark to you, right? I mean, you're Walter Nolan, right? That's a guy who didn't have to come, but he came and participated the whole time. He didn't leave. And while I wouldn't say he's a slam dunk first rounder, I'd say he's a consensus first rounder.
Well, and like it was fun too, because like you brought up Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon was so fun to talk to. You could see the communication thing just spew right from him. He was really fun to talk to. He's looking forward to talking to people. He's trying to find people to talk to, if anything. Big guy, you get the 80-inch wingspan going out. That's crazy.
He's a big kid.
With that too, like one of the funniest things with him was he was actually talking during his interview about because they were kind of bringing that up, like, oh, you don't really get to show off as much as you want to. And he's like, yeah, they seen a lot of people like on the viral clips of the one-on-one. Why are they taking so long? Why is like the getup? Why are they doing so much stuff in between? It's like a lot of people don't understand that like the practices there weren't a lot of one-on-one reps like right away, you know, like so they're just trying to kind of show off a little bit, you know, like it's not like anything should be taken certain. They just didn't have as many opportunities to do the one-on-one, so you're gonna see a little bit more of like the flashing around.
Yeah, so, you know, I've been here a few times, and so the install gets shorter and shorter every time, right? I mean, these guys have so little time to absorb whatever it is they're gonna try to run, and the number of padded practices brought that, right? So it used to be that, you know, you were hitting Tuesday, Wednesday, and even Thursday, you know, maybe not full, but you were hitting. But full on hitting for 2 days, and then, you know, a little bit of not, you know, little thud, but nothing, you know, not taking to the ground on the last practice, which is Thursday, and then Friday's rest day. And they've dialed back the physicality each year over the past several years. The amount of stuff they install has been dialed back. So everything's been simplified to, I guess, like the simplest possible level football-wise. But even then, there's a lot of coaching that has to happen. And so some of the times, it's a three-ring circuit, right? You're trying to do this over here and that over there and this over there. And some players are in more than one group, right? Like you're a linebacker, but we're also working out the defensive line or vice versa. Or you are a guy who's a big, slow receiver, but you're a tight end projection. Or you're a guy who's being pulled over in special teams sometimes. So there's a lot to be managed in terms of the whole process. But I think for the most part, while some things were a little slower than other years, I think it was mostly well managed.
Absolutely.
Are there any prospects who you think, now there's more questions, right? I'll start with you, Jordan, where they may have, people are gonna go back to the tape, trying to figure out why they didn't see certain things before, or why they, like, maybe they like the prospect more than they coming down, like them more, and now they have more questions. Now they're wondering, was that a mirage?
But I think for me, I hate harping on it because I know everybody's going to be harping on it for this one. But Fanning just looks so much more stiff than he does on film. Like it actually, like that was the first thing I wrote down was like I need to go rewatch the tape. Like I need to figure out what I missed because like to me it was like going crazy. And then like it doesn't help when the best player in the three practices at Arroyo playing at the same position as him, and he's doing the complete opposite where he looks loose as a goose and he's freaking out there, man. To me, he just looks stiff. He looks kind of slower. He's got his get off doesn't seem the same. I know some people were saying that he might have tweaked something on day one.
Okay.
So if that's what happened, I'm not sure. Obviously, I didn't cover him. But I thought he had like a more stiff day. I wish I could have seen more. But I will say today he improved a lot more compared to where he was in the previous 2 days.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, he showed me a little bit more. I think he is I hate when people say like crafty, but he is a guy who wins with like positioning and nuance and intelligence and things about route tempo, and he's not a fantastic pure athlete. And I hope I'm wrong, right? I'd love for him to go out and run, 4.4 something, but I'm guessing he's the guy who's in the high 4.6s. But even more important is how he does in like three-cone and short shuttle will give us an idea of really what his ability to create separation without scheme getting in separation. But he can still go to a scheme where they create separation for him and still be really, really good. There's more than one way to be a good football player. We've talked about it many times. Same question for you. Who do you think maybe has generated more questions about himself?
Well, one of the guys who I saw had a very up and down, there were certainly the highlight plays, the flashes, but the question still lingered with him was Deion Walker. Can he properly get his pad level down? Because he is a behemoth of a human being at 6'7", 340 pounds. He has the height of the Force Buckner and the weight of Vita Vea. Can he possibly lower that pad level? But he has plenty of power behind him.
Power not an issue, right?
Yes.
Right.
But there were certainly plenty of reps where when they were going full contact, he was still not sinking quite as much as we hoped.
Yeah. When he flattens his back, there's nobody who can hold up against him. The issue is the more reps, the higher he gets. And I mean, that's not just true of him. I mean, all the supersized, huge guys struggle with it. It is more work for them to get down. It's uncomfortable, especially when you're a very large person, to sink down and get low. And as you get fatigued and the lactic acid builds up and everything's beginning to get sore, everyone's natural inclination to be like, oh, I mean, like you don't want to be, sinking when you're sore. But if he wants to have a long-term successful career, especially as not just a specialist, but as a guy who plays more than 15 snaps, he will have to work on that. If he's fine with just being that comes in just situations as a guy who just plugs up the middle, then, I mean, even then he should work on some of this, but it's not as critical. There were a couple of the sort of giant mammoth guys, and what stands out is when you see, a guy who's larger than normal in his position, like Shamar Stewart, right, who looks like he's 264, 5, 6 pounds, but he's 281 pounds, and you can't figure out where he's hiding the 281 pounds. And he moves, I mean, he's so fluid and so fast, and, it's crazy, right, when a guy who's that size can move like that, and that's why, even though he's not super productive, right, we all know the 4.5 sacks over an entire career numbers, and not a lot of tackles. I mean, like, there's nothing that says, oh man, this guy is killing it, except pressure, right? He does generate a lot of pressure. He's, near the top of the SEC in generating pressure. And he said himself, I talked to him, he said, yeah, I need to learn to finish. Like, you mentioned that about working on finishing and things like that. But yeah, self-aware. That's good to hear, because that's darn true. Because if an NFL team goes out and gets you, and you're going up a level in competition, even the SEC, the NFL is a bump up in competition. If in 3 years you get 4.5 sacks in college, it is difficult to automatically assume you're going to get more sacks in the NFL when you're playing against, hey, this Trent Williams, he's good, right? So, yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with him. The buzz around him is mostly just because of, look at him, right? And he did have some really good reps, too. He had some really good reps, too. But obviously, like I said,
just over time, it certainly had some lessening impact. Just like you said, stamina is the biggest factor there.
Without him, yeah. Stamina's big for him, flexibility is big for him. And like I said, if he can play with a flat back, if he can, I mean, who's going to stop him? That's the whole thing, is getting consistency in low charges, those, coming flat off, and, some other, there's no super tall guy, we're talking about bear crawls, right? He's working on trying to get his pad level down. So, boom. The elephant in the room is, of course, the quarterbacks. I don't want to spend much time on them, but we can't not talk about them. I mean, we could, but people then wonder why what do you have to hide? I'm protecting you from yourselves. So it was, you could find one or two good throws from every single quarterback in this game. But the problem is stringing together consistency, and none of them were able to do that. The closest would be, of course, Dylan Gabriel. And the thing about the Dylan Gabriel thing is that it's the agony and the ecstasy of low expectation, added to the fact that his floor and ceiling are this far apart. So you know what you're getting. You can't say, oh, we were fooled. You know what I mean? Like, you definitely know you're getting Dylan Gabriel. He showed you exactly who he is. From the time he's at UCF all the way up until now, he hasn't changed. There's no radical difference in the way he plays. He's exactly who you think he is. Gym rat, 5'10 and a half. He's amazingly 202 pounds. That's the big win for him. I would have never guessed that. I thought he was, I thought 193 would be a nice number for him. He came in at 206. That's impressive.
Well,
But
the funny thing is, like, joking about his weight, too, it's like, I remember walking past it, and I was just like, oh, yeah. That's Dylan Gabriel. Like, he's way smaller than I expected him. Like,
Everyone
and I'm a Pat guy. And I didn't even,
everyone had that same reaction to seeing him up front.
yeah.
And so that's what I mean about sort of questions, right? The questions, even though we've had quote unquote smaller quarterbacks, they didn't look as small as he looks. I mean,
With the exception of maybe Bryce Young.
yeah, okay, that's a good call. Yeah, Bryce Young also looked. I think he also came in at 202, right?
Yeah, he came in at 202, 201, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, that's physically, but Bryce has an arm. I mean, that's the big difference. Bryce can sling it. And you know, we also joked about the throwing metrics or whatever.
30 miles per hour.
Yeah. Does Dylan Gabriel have the strongest arm in NFL history? Leave a comment.
Yes, there you go. Yes.
You just wait, when it gets measured at the combine, when he throws it against that pad,
I'll-
75 miles per hour.
I think
can't
they
believe
changed, I think what they did is they changed up the, how they are measuring
I'm
mile
gonna
per
guess
hour.
that.
Because at the combine, it seems like they measure mile per hour from a 10-yard split of the ball.
Yeah, they don't measure
These
at
are-
the hand.
Yeah,
They
this is
measure-
right at the release point, how fast is that ball traveling?
Right.
Which I think is less of a how strong your arm is, it's more of how quick your release is.
Yeah, and also has a compact mechanics help.
Exactly.
Which he has, I mean, one thing I'll give him, his mechanics are as smooth as silk. I
Yeah.
mean, that's I'll give him, but, I mean, he's like I said, he knows exactly what to get. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, do we need a quick-footed, quick-minded backup?
Well, and it's like in a room of erratic, he's the calm. He's the calm and everybody else was kind of the storm, you know? So it's like, you'd see both hits and misses, like you'd see a beautiful throw from Jalen O'Reilly where you're like, wow. And then you'd see another one where it's like, wow.
Yes. He was unfortunately the victim of both a Billy, interception,
Yeah.
as well as 2 Jack Kaiser interceptions.
Yes. Right.
Which,
Which I think matches Jack Kaiser's collegiate career for interceptions. So, that'll give you an idea.
I will say, Kaiser had 20 back at, in Indiana, at the 1A level, of course, but
All them
Shout out
off
to Jack.
Jalen O'Reilly.
he also had 139 touchdowns rushing. Amazing dual threat guy.
Give him some reps on offense.
Yeah.
I think it looked calmer today though, like with Jalen O'Reilly. I thought he looked a lot calmer than he did in the two
Yeah.
games. Like,
He didn't look freaked out.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, exactly.
He made some mistakes, but he didn't seem to be shaken by them as much.
Yeah.
I hear people saying, you know, sit him for a year. I mean, maybe. You better have an amazing coaching staff.
Yes.
That's your plan. If your plan is this guy's a starter after a year, your coaching staff better be incredible. Because my issue, and once again, I want to be clear, I like this person. He's a fantastic young man. He's a good athlete. He wants to be good. But he is a ground to top everything. You got to work on everything with him. The footwork and striding. You got to work with, you know, what he's doing with where he's pointing his shoulders. You got to work with his release point. You got to work with
His arm angles.
all of it.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing you don't have to work on. So if you're excited about Jalen Milrow, first of all, you're excited about him as a person. He's a great
Yes.
young man, fantastic young man, smart, hardworking, all this, really like Eagle Scout type quality person.
You're excited for him as an athlete. He's going to test very, very well at the scouting combine, and that's going to get a lot of media hype.
And he is going to test well.
Yeah.
And he's going to even do well probably even on the board,
Mhm.
I mean, just talking football. The problem is playing football. And I mean, people yell at me, but I gotta leave third round pick. I'm sorry. I mean, and that's based on, like, I mean, he's pushed up a little to get to that, based on the fact he's such a high quality person, who I know is gonna work hard, and if there's a chance that he makes it, he'll do everything to get to that chance. But the odds are strongly stacked against that.
Well, it's also weird because you have to match his skill set. Like, you have to match his skill set with the right team where they're going to develop him. I mean, like, I know people keep making jokes about him being Lamar's backup for the Ravens, but I don't see that at all. It just, the Ravens can't develop that as quickly as people think they can.
I mean, his ceiling is like Tyler Huntley. Like, if
Yeah.
everything works out, he could be Tyler Huntley.
Yeah.
Without, even that would take a lot of work to get to that. Is there anyone else that sort of jumped out at you, and once again, maybe not the best possible way, but like maybe it's a player that other people are high on, but you're sort of seeing them and seeing maybe through some of the excitement and seeing that, yeah, maybe there's some things to be worked on. I'll say this, a lot of people were super into, and this is a really good class. I mean, it's a really good class of athletes, right? And so you could find something to like about every single one of them. But every once in a while, you'd see a guy who only had, you only have a move, you have one move,
Yeah.
right? And if you don't have two moves, they'll figure out the one move pretty quickly. Better to have three or four, but at least two, right? At least you can alternate. If you're all speed rush, you're all bull rush, and you don't have a dirty wins. But he had both. Aeneas Peoples is a guy that is super scrappy and, gets in there and like scratching and biting and fighting and winning probably more often than he lost. And then, I'm just to be honest, I'm glad Walter Nolan came. I'm glad he stayed. I'm glad he participated fully, and I'm rooting for him to do well. I thought he was dominant.
Yeah.
And I did not see dominance at really any point from him. I saw good reps. I can tell he's well coached. I can tell he's a good athlete. But, and maybe he's, come here just to sort of be businesslike and not show too much. I don't know. But, like, that was a guy that was one of my highest rated prospects coming in. I don't quite have a first round grade on, but he's very close. He's just outside the first round to me, but he could easily be a first round. And, of course, testing will be, if he has a great day at the combine, then yeah, he'll be a first rounder. Is it just me? Because I didn't see him, like, destroying everybody.
I agree with that, and I'll add another name to it as well with Princeton, and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
It broke my heart. That was one of the guys I was the most excited to see down here. I was hoping for a day where he just explodes and like has his best days, because on his best days, nobody can beat him. But it's like, how many times are we gonna get to the best day? And it's like, the last 2 days, he looked a lot better today than he did the previous 2 days.
This was
But,
the best day.
in terms of like the previous 2 days, I thought he was gonna be loud. I thought everything was gonna show, and it was just quiet. Like it was just, he didn't see much, he didn't hear much. And then like at the same time, like I was bringing up with Sorrell earlier, it's like, that's what I kept noticing on the board. I'm like, well, there's Sorrell again,
Yep.
Another one in terms of like, I know he's everybody's draft darling right now, it's not pass rusher, but Jalen Royals, I thought he wasn't as hype. Like, I was expecting him to be loud too.
Yeah,
you
he's
know?
not 100% yet.
Yeah.
With his injury.
Okay.
But, yeah, I talked to him a little bit about that as well, and, I sort of thanked him for, because a lot of guys, when they are moving,
Yeah.
just don't come. So I thanked him for coming, and fighting through, because, but he said, like, I'm a competitor, I'm going to compete, I'm going to give you, because he said it was a regular season game, I'm playing, You're not be like, oh, I'm only 87%, coach, I'm sorry, and, so he made a good point, like, I was just a regular game, I'm playing. Okay, makes sense, so, he says that by the combine, he should be 100%, he can do everything. That's the other thing, a question I didn't used to have to ask is, will you do everything at the combine, which I now started asking, because the old days, guys did everything, unless they were Deion Sanders, they ran the 40 left, but everybody else in the old days did everything, because, it was sort of implied that you had to.
You can't just opt out of it then, right? Assumedly, they did.
The reason I love that question too, is like, you'll see it in certain guys who are like, oh my God. And then you'll see other guys who are like, yeah, I'm doing everything.
You can tell the difference.
Ollie Gordon was so excited to tell people, oh yeah, I'm doing everything.
There was a couple guys who made it extremely clear that they could not wait. They could not wait to show people what they're doing.
They want to give our friend, Kenley Plott, AKA @MassBomb on Twitter and X, the founder of RAS, Relative Athletic Score. They wanted to give him as much data as possible. And you know what? I can appreciate that from my friend.
Yep. Shamar made it extremely clear. He's
Oh,
doing everything.
As he should.
Yeah, if I had that body, I would be.
You gotta show it off.
I would be doing like something that looks like the combine just everywhere I went.
Every day is a pro day for me.
Every day's a pro day. It's like, what are you doing? I'm going to jump over this aisle, I'm gonna pick up this refrigerator. Like, why would you not? Literally. Like, why would you not? He really has a gift from God. But yeah, he definitely is one of the guys that, even though, he had some really good reps and some reps where he got stonewalled, like, Emory Jones, stonewalled him, once or twice, and, from Minnesota, Ariante, and he mentioned, Arrington mentioned Shamar as one of his favorite reps because of how good he was, and then, I didn't get a chance to talk to Emory, but Emory got brought, 3 different defensive linemen brought up Emory as like a guy they thought was really something.
Yeah, I heard Emory and I heard Zabel, like a little bit.
Yeah, if all the interior guys mentioned Zabel, or if they didn't know his name instead.
That was a cracker, yeah.
Z
Or
or
North Dakota State guy.
Yeah.
With Princely, he just has such a wide variety of pass rush moves that you would think He would be able to change it up so much,
Yeah.
guys would not know what to expect. He would have a really, really good, like, couple days. Similar to what happened last year with Leatu Latu.
Yep.
He was a master of so many different moves that he absolutely befuddled opposing offense.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen up until this day.
I think it's two things that were the difference. I mean, obviously, I think Leatu Latu had come into this realizing that people were worried, a little worried about him, right? About how he physically even hold up. He's a guy that has a scary injury history, and was a little light, but he showed power. Like that was like, he put on a little bit of weight, but he showed power in a way that I had not really seen on tape at the time.
Yeah.
But and he showed everything, right?
Yeah.
He had every name of move he had. The little ghost move, he had spins,
He had the chop.
he had chop, he had chop rip, he had the fake spin. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
he every move in the book. And Princely seemed to be less willing to let it rip for some
Yeah.
reason. And I don't know, and once again, I don't want to say he's playing not to get hurt, but I saw some guys who I'd seen play harder on tape. I mean, I know it's an all-star game. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But like you contrast that with like Jack Dash or Jack Kaiser or the aforementioned Darius Alexander, guys who are playing like their life depends on it.
Yeah.
It really stood out with some of the guys that maybe, and once again, maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe that is as hard as they can play, but it didn't look like it. And yeah, I talked to Kinsey a little bit, and once again, another guy, you look at him like, oh, well, this is what God meant when God designed the pass rusher. Arms down to here, and broad shoulders, and a waist is like 29.5 inches, and, just a ridiculous build. But, yeah, he's a guy you're thinking like, okay, any minute now, he's gonna put one of those reps on that like, is gonna demand that Joe and I talk about it, right? And, yeah, you're right, that never happened.
I was just gonna say, it was a really fun interview though. Like,
Yeah, he's a good young man.
Yeah,
Like he's
like kept talking about how you wanna go get Tyler Guyton.
he's got a girl.
He's like, that's the one I look forward to, cause I made a joke, cause I was asking just like all the D-line, like, who's the one guy you wanna go against, like next level, and almost every one of them said Trent Williams, and I said that, and it was funny, cause he started with Trent Williams, and I was like, man, everybody said that, and I was like, okay, I got you, different one. He's already good.
Yeah, all the linebackers want to be Fred Warner.
Right.
All the corners want to be Patrick Surtain.
And I get it, right? I mean, those are great players. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be great.
Absolutely.
In fact, I love it, guys who want to be great. And I'll touch on a few of the running backs. So we mentioned some of the FCS guys that helped us some. Obviously, both Zabel, who's helped us out tremendously. I have to mention Jackson Slater.
Yeah.
Jackson Slater is another guy who can play guard, center, either one of the guards or the center position. He came in a little heavier than he's going to be at the combine. He says he'll be more like 312, 311 at the combine, but he's here at 320 and showed up and showed out. All those classic, cliches about in a phone booth, a knife fighter in the back alley, whatever it is, all the stuff that, you hear about a guy who, man, if he locks onto you, that's probably it. You might just want to wait for the next rep.
Just a bear in a telephone booth.
All that stuff, man, because once he gets you, you're God. Like, you're not going anyplace. That's it. That's all. He had a great week. I'm going to miss him, Carson Benson. He's another balls. They only invited 5, which, once again, I'm going to stop harping on it after this, I promise. But I feel like this is a year when there should have been 7, 8, I feel like at least one more pass rusher should have been here from FCS or D2. A great year to bring a D2 quarterback. But yeah, so I'll move on now. But he had a really, really good week. And then Marcus Yarns amongst the running backs, next. Talked to him a little bit into today's practice. And I mean, yeah, you look at his build and he's definitely, he could use a few more pounds. He said he played at closer to 195 during the season. He's going to try to get back up to somewhere between 195 and 200. I feel like that's probably enough. He's not seen as an every down back, which is almost not a thing anymore. I mean, the term every down back, refers to really a bygone era. I mean, James Wilder was an every down back. 383 touches. That was an every down back. 16 games. But that's really something that's largely put to bed. but he caught the ball well. He's a guy that, you know, he's not body slamming people in blitz pickup, but I didn't see him get tossed out of the club. I didn't see him fail to compete. I didn't see him back down.
There was willingness there.
Willingness and even halfway decent technique, right? He reset a few times. Like a lot of guys, once he gets beat, it's like, well, I guess I'm gonna beat, you know.
Sorry, GB.
Right? Look out! You know?
He's coming at you.
Oh, that's gonna hurt. Oh, so sorry. Oh,
Good luck in the draft.
my bad. but I saw him even like reset. Like if you know, absorb initial contact. He's not in pounds. He's not, you know, but he absorbed initial contact.
Stay with it.
Right,
Like
and then reset. Right, you can see him like re-engage and then like, you know, yeah. Okay.
Great skill set. Also, when he was doing some runs while they were doing full contact, he had some very nice contact balance for a player of his size.
Yep, he's got contact balance, he's got explosiveness, he's got his hands, and yeah, like I said, we talk about willingness, right? You can do a lot if you're willing to try. The running back group, once again, like the linebackers, is not really set up to show off most of what you, especially if you're a bigger back. But you know, both Tootin and Etienne got a chance to show swerviness and caught the ball. Jaquavius, aka Woody Marks, showed that he could catch the. I wish we knew he could catch the ball, and you know, he had a couple good runs also.
You know, it was a brilliant pass catcher with Quinn.
Yes, McQuinn Allen, one of my favorites as well. He has a very, very nice route tree that he got over at Syracuse, and it showed not just in one-on-ones where, of course, the wide receiver, the running back, the tight end, they always have the inherent advantage in one-on-ones. But it also showed out in scrimmages as well. I was really impressed by it.
And he was making like leaps.
Yes.
Yeah. It was like,
He made adjustments to the ball.
I literally sat there and I'm like, what is your vertical?
I hope we get
It's going to be a good combine
Yeah.
performance if he goes all for it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing him. I'm looking forward to seeing all the small school guys that got invitations, and hopefully a couple more will still. They haven't completely finished the process. I know, and some guys I know will, you know, hopefully, you know, fully participate also. Yeah, but the class of the class is tight.
Yeah.
We talked. You actually talked about the comparison between Arroyo and Fannin. Jackson Hawes. He impressed me. Hawes, the Yale graduate by way of Georgia Tech, had a really nice week. Showed he can block, which I knew, but I mean, showed he can block really good football players. And going against Deans at times. He didn't win all those reps, I don't know why, but he gave as good as he got, even against some guys he really had no business trying to block. I think that he showed me something. I think with body control and hands that I hadn't seen on tape. Now I'm gonna have to go back and do that. But I mean, before I was like, I won't say like why is he here, but like
But no.
I've watched Nebraska, and at no point did I think, yeah, that guy's a killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so when I was like, here's guys I would have brought instead. But then I saw him like, okay, maybe you guys know what you're talking about. Fedone, I warmed up to him, right? And he had I didn't see much Tuesday, but both Wednesday and today, I saw him show some body control and hands that I had not seen when I watched him on tape. You know, when I was prepping for the Senior Bowl, I tried to see if I could get 6 games at least on each guy, and with 1 or 2 exceptions, I did. I only ended up with 4 on Sacramento State, and I had to go more than 1 year to get to the 4. But that's how I originally found Jackson State, was when I was watching Cameron Davis, right? It's like, who's this guy that's just creating these, you know, beautiful gaps for him to run through? It's like, oh, when he started getting to this kid. But he says they still talk occasionally, so shout out to Cam, who we follow each other on X/Twitter, and I'm thrilled to see that, you know, it's like, once again, like when your favorite band, you know, gets popular. It was cool, you know, seeing the Sacramento State guys, but getting back to the tight end class, this is a year where, especially you need your other tight end, right, your second tight end. You're gonna find those guys always in the draft, even in the undrafted free agent signing period. You're gonna find guys that are capable of making an NFL roster at the tight end position. It is, in my mind, the deepest position in the entire class, and the interior offensive line is probably the I saw some flashes also from, well, I mean, obviously Mason Taylor, he's a good football player. Not exactly breaking news there, Bill.
I'm shocked.
See a few Bartholomew reps in there too. Yeah.
That's a guy that, so we talked about Lucas Krull, right?
Yeah.
So I had Lucas Krull on our show last year, who's now with Gogginarrotta. And, you know, they overlapped at Pitt. And so, we talked a little bit. Bartholomew was always sort of guys who do a little bit of everything. Is he a devastating blocker? No, he's a good blocker. And he's a little more athletic than maybe most people thought. I don't think he's gonna run like a ridiculous 40, but I think he's gonna have a decent 40, and I think he's gonna have a better than expected 3-pound and short tail. And so I came in liking him, and I like him even more. Let's see.
The big riser, of course, like we were saying, Arroyo.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Blue.
the thing with Arroyo is just that, I mean, I just missed him so many times because he was hurt a lot.
Yeah.
He's a guy who, you know, went 2 years where he missed over half of the season twice.
Yeah.
So that, for him to combine the big win would be medical, you know, scar tissue, nerve damage, you know, like that. If he's clean, right, if it's all injuries that have healed the way they're supposed to, he's going to make a lot of money. And even if he, you know, slides down because they find something they don't like, I still think he's gonna make a lot of money initially.
Yeah.
But, he'll make less money initially, but Arroyo showed you route tempo, balance, verge, natural hands catching, after the catch. The blocking was enough, blockish, you know,
He weighed better than what we were kind of expecting.
and
as
he
well.
came in like 7
Yeah.
pounds over what I think I was expecting to.
Yeah.
He was
Got a little more sand in the pants for blocking.
little more.
Yeah.
251, right?
While
So
still not sacrificing
yeah,
any of
I was
those
right.
other
That's
traits.
7 pounds over what I think I had estimated he was probably gonna be at 244, and he's at 271. That's a good number for him, and he still looks super quick and smooth. And he and Zabel and Mike Green were like the top 3 buzziest
Yeah.
guys here, where everybody, even people who don't, you know, dig deep,
Yeah.
knew about those guys.
I think with the tight end group too, like you compare it to last year's, where last year's it was like you obviously had the headline, you had Brock Bowers.
Yep.
And then after that, it was kind of just like a bunch of random. And now it's like the bunch of random all got a lot better. And it's way more deep. And the biggest thing with it is too, is like, I always like to say, like as a person who follows the draft as hard as I do, tight ends are the hardest position for me. Because like, I think that there's so much of a crapshoot to it. Or like, it's always some random guy in the 5th round pops out of nowhere. Completely different player in the NFL.
Jimmy
than the other
Graham.
fellas.
Yeah.
But yeah,
The Mark Andrews, well, I mean, he was good in college, but it's like,
sort of like Arroyo, right? A guy who didn't
Exactly.
stay healthy in college, and then it's like, surprise!
If you want to be a dominant tight end,
Yeah.
it is a position that you really have to be phenomenal in athletic testing for.
Yep.
But even then, there are still plenty of very usable guys in different roles, especially for inline blocking tight ends, that you can find that might not test well, but they could stick around for quite a bit just to add that little extra oomph in the run game.
My little tight end crush last year, Tip Ryman, right? That's what
Yeah.
his ticket was. Tip's gonna try to put your belief in the dirt. He's gonna try to bury you if he can.
Tommy Tremble.
Yeah, right. Those guys, there's a place for those guys.
They'll
Even
stick
if-
around.
Yeah, they'll stick around. Even if they're not super athletic, even their hands are just okay, if you show that if someone does ask you to block, you know, defensive end or, you know, a Sam linebacker or whatever, and you consistently win that block, and now, you know, so you go on Barkley is running down the field because of that block, yes, you're gonna have a job in the NFL for years.
Yeah, can you execute a wham block and not get destroyed by a defensive tackle?
Correct.
And see, that's my thing too, it's like, I've always liked when teams double dip with tight end, just in the draft, just like, shoot the shot with 2 of them, you get 2 completely different, see what happens. You get one who's like a more inline blocker, more focused on that, and randomly might flop receiving ability. And then the opposite happens too, where you have a guy who's great with receiving ability, all of a sudden randomly flops blocking once he gets NFL coaching, you know?
Yeah, well, the Ravens drafted,
Every
both.
time they do it.
Right, yeah, right, that's right, but they drafted Likely and,
Kohler.
Plus Hayden and Mark Andrews as well.
Yeah, same thing.
Dennis Pitta as Dixon.
Right, there you go. That's
There's the duo.
That's their jam.
tight ends.
Yeah.
That's their jam, yeah. It's like, okay, what 2 tight ends?
And it's always the second one, it's never the first.
And Colts really only did that once with Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen as
Yeah.
well, right in round 2 and 3. could possibly do a double dip this year just because they have two free agent tight ends right now, and the entire position did not work out well for them in 2020.
I was gonna say that was so I was writing about the Colts this year for Team MBS Media, and the two big storylines for me on offense were the development, or lack thereof, the quarterback, and then the fact that the tight end was like,
Non-existent.
I mean, it was sort of like, hey, why don't you go play?
We'll get Johnny Woods back out there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he has not taken a single snap in the last 2 years. His hamstrings have unfortunately been injured both years. It is tough to see, like them really relying upon him just because he's a complete unknown at this point, especially to a new coaching staff as well.
Right.
Of course, there's Mo Cox and Kylan Granson. You got your designated blocker and your move slot tight end. Yeah, both of them out. They're gonna keep Ogletree, of course. He's developed as a blocker from a former wide receiver.
Yep.
Gotten a lot more weight on him, but still was too inconsistent to really say, oh, he's our starting tight end going forward. And then Mallory was the tight end 3 or tight end 4 in a very uninspiring group. He never was able to move up. Again, another unknown. They absolutely can double dip at tight end, and I think should.
And the crazy thing is, all my high school recruiting guys were telling me, Will Mallory, who I think was like the highest, or one of the highest rated tight ends in the country as a high school. It's like this guy, that guy. But I have a whole other rant about like how distorted sometimes high school recruiting can be based on the program and the reputation of the coaching staff and stuff like that. But jumping over to the people that kind of cover tight ends, and I guess running back as well. Somebody said to me that they didn't know what they thought of the safety class. And I could sort of understand what they meant by that, because outside of the, like, what's sort of like the quarterbacks, right? There's two superstars, and then, or guys that everybody knows about and likes, everyone universally likes, and then after that it's like, well, who else is there?
Well, and that was last year's safety class without the headliners.
Right, good point. So one of my guys was here, and that's Justin Barron, who some people even think could be a linebacker, which he could possibly do, but because of the way the senior role is structured, you can really see what he really is, because there's no, bringing people unconscious allowed, but he really is, like, in many ways, like your old school, hammer, but he also can cover, right? That's the thing, like, he has to cover now. He can't just be an old school hammer, so he can do both. He's a smart guy.
I was raised 6'3" too. I had to keep going back on my resume. I was like,
What?
65?
He's a big kid, and he weighed in like 214.
226.
That's huge. Yeah, he's
He's a big boy.
He's a big kid, and he loves football. I mean, like, I know you sort of expect to hear that, but I mean, there's questions you can ask that will reveal who really, really loves football. And so when you ask like particular plays, or I always ask about film study, like tell me about something you spotted about an opponent or something that helped you to win, you saw in film study. And the guys that give you like sort of generic-esque answers, I'm always a little frightened by that. Oh yeah, I noticed they do such and such, and so I did blah, blah, blah. Versus the ones that like lay it all out for you. It's 3rd and 7. I was blah, blah, blah. I saw such and such. I remember they like to do this. When this package comes in, I know they do this. Like,
Or you noticed a previous tendency from a matchup, and then you were able to exploit a loophole around it.
Well, Justin Barron was one of those guys that had like the whole. He took the NC State game, and he like set the whole scene and who they brought in. I was like, oh yeah, this guy, this is a guy. This guy's a dude. So yeah, I started to warm up to him. I'll be watching his athletic testing with extreme interest, because if he tests super well, it's like, hello Pittsburgh, you get to play next to Minka Fitzpatrick. But yeah, because I sort of know what the Steelers like, right? I know that they looked at Darius Alexander like, ooh, right? I know what they like. I know they looked at Deion Walker. I know they looked at a couple other guys, but and offense they need tackles desperately. So I know they looked at all the tackles, and I get the feeling they liked, well, a lot of them. But I won't be shocked if once again a guy like Ariante or a guy like they're not afraid of taking guys they know they have to develop, and they've done it before. And the truly finished prospects at the tackle, will go early, right? They're not getting Kelvin Banks, they're not getting, they're not getting, like, yeah, Will Campbell's not making it to the Steelers, right? So those first couple of guys off the board, sort of like you talk, some other positions go very, very quickly. They're not making it 10, even probably the low, 17, 18. Who is your deep cut, right? The one that isn't getting all the buzz, isn't headlining, isn't everybody's flavor. NFL Network, ESPN isn't talking about this kid, but who's your deep cut? Who's your guy that you like that isn't being talked about?
I would say that it is probably the smallest player in this Senior Bowl event. Very, very scrappy. Definitely not going to be everyone's prototype. Not going to fit on every team based off what they need at the position. Uptown Stout.
Yes.
No, that is not a lager.
That is
Uptown Stout.
If he doesn't get an NIL deal with
He has to get a brewing deal.
Sam Adams
Yes.
or somebody.
Yeah.
Sam Adams presents Upton Stout.
Exactly. But no, he is out of Western Kentucky. Very undersized, but he plays a lot bigger than his size. He was pressing a lot. He was sticking very well, good mirroring ability. We already saw that he could read and react before, but having that ability to press is very, very interesting for him. He was going up against the guys who had a good half a foot over him.
Right. When you think about the Mike Hiltons and the Kenny Moores and Owen Scandrick was super fast. I don't think that kind of athlete, but like those, pepper pot, whatever term you like to use, those chihuahuas, those, guys who, not everybody's into those, right? They're not for everybody, but I'm a fan of his as well. I liked him. I wanted to like Jacob Parrish. I liked him on tape.
Yeah.
I didn't see him do a whole lot here, but I liked him on tape. So I don't dislike him. I still like him the same amount as I liked him before, but I was hoping to see him do more here. But those guys are somewhat similar. But Stout is the one that, of all those sort of miniature slot guys, he's the one that helps the most. Who's your deep cut?
For corners specifically, safety?
Anybody. Could be anybody.
It's still been, like that's just been my guy. Like I've just been watching him on and off. I've been the one guy talking about him. I just think like everything I saw, and there were so many things that I was like, I didn't see that on tape. Oh my god, like because you would watch the pass rush drills and you would watch like the smoothness in terms of like how quick they would move their hands on a rip or something like that. And like some of those guys, like you could tell it's like they're kind of slow, they're kind of waxing in.
Because they just learned certain things.
Yeah.
Or, as you said, they aren't going full out.
And you just see Sorrell like it was like picking a lock just every single time. It was crazy. It was like that. Kone was cool as well for the corner. Yeah, he's a little fun one. I think it's just like it's also a weird event for corners and safeties in general because you gotta keep in mind too, like during this time, this is the first time you've seen a lot of these guys even press in their career. It's like, and that's what they're trying to show off. So like, you'll see them get gassed, you'll see them happen, but it's like the first time they've pressed. But like they're not.
Some of them have never done any level of football
When
before.
Kone at Western Michigan, he was predominantly doing a off system.
Exactly.
He was doing bail technique. He was, despite having the size that you would expect for more of a press guy, it's like if him and Uptown Stout could like switch roles. That would have been ideal for what you could stereotype for what their sizes are. But
My deep cut's Pat Bryant, and
catching everything.
he's a guy that has, once again, size, hands, body control. I will be, once again, very closely watching his athletic testing, not just 40, but the 3-cone, short shuttle, and vertical. Because everybody wants at least one jump ball guy, and he's probably going to be a wide receiver 3. So he has to sort of help carve out a role for himself. And, if he can somehow, prove to people or turn into, some of the more fun wide receivers in the league. North Carolina ran track, but now he's with the Bills. Barefoot all the time. Never wears shoes. But that's like a guy.
Was drafted by by Bills or has just gone?
He was an undrafted free agent, but the Bills got him in free agency. He started his career with, not Carolina,
I know, literally.
Yeah, look up the Bills depth chart.
But like he's not quite as tall, but he
Yeah.
could be that kind of player, right?
Mhm.
Special team demon, makes tough catches,
Yep.
but has a little more run after catch. Not just what I call possession plus, like not just possession
Mhm.
guy. Like Jack Besh is a possession guy,
Yes.
right? Heart of a lion.
Mhm.
He's gonna once again fight like hell on special teams. Oh, it just came back to turn on.
Not KJ.
No. It was right there.
Matt Collins?
There it is. Thank you.
That's who I thought it was earlier.
Yep,
I was like,
yep.
that might be something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he could aspire like that Matt Collins role. Now he has to test well, because Matt Collins
Yes.
tested really well. And once again, it's five plays still in the league, right? But if Pat Bryant has a good day in Indianapolis, continues to work on the final points of the craft,
Mhm.
because he's not an amazing separator,
Yeah.
but I think that's mostly because of how he's been taught to play, and the fact that he doesn't get pressed a lot, right? I mean, you just mentioned the whole thing. There's guys who have never pressed before, there's guys who've never
Yeah.
been pressed
Yeah.
before also. They're used to people backing the hell out, right? Because,
Let me get a free release, please.
right, and because a lot of times that's what happens, especially when they're afraid of you, right?
Yeah.
If you're Kyle Williams, who's ever tried to press you anyway, right? Who's even thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna go press Kyle Williams?
That's the crazy idea that Uptown Stout would have.
And you might be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
It's so crazy it just might work.
And like some of the guys I like too, small moments, Isaac Passlaw.
Yes.
When he was there. Like, it would be like in little spurts, but you see like, oh.
We're talking about the
Another
highlight
hands
test
and body
match.
control guy.
Yeah.
Yep, hands, body control. Another guy couldn't really separate.
Separation? No.
But hands, body control, tough.
Former quarterback,
And it-
wide receiver.
And it shows,
Yep.
right? I mean, he's another guy that's QB friendly, as they say.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, dude sticks out, but I didn't really see as much as I wanted to with Jaquan Felton, just because you can spot him anyways. You just look down, you're like, oh, he's over there.
Yeah. If we're talking about a guy who did separate himself, Tez Johnson.
Gus Johnson.
That's one that we haven't talked about. Of course, he is 9 pounds lighter than Xavier Worthy, who just broke the combine record last year for 40.
Yep.
But Tez has a very, very nice subtle release package, great wiggle,
Yep.
phenomenal speed. He was getting open consistently. And of course, again, on the one-on-ones, it's always going to be at that advantage. But even in team stuff as well, he was putting people in some fits. Of course, again, not going to be for everybody.
I think Tez is very, very quick. I don't think he's gonna test off the charts fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's gonna hurt him. I hope I'm wrong, right? I'd love to see him, run 4.3 something, but I think he's more like upper 4.4s to low 4.5s. And maybe I'm wrong, right? I've been wrong before.
Hey, if he uses his speed well.
And right, I mean, there's guys who are, not blazing fast who've got long, successful careers. Somebody was talking about, hey, there's always a job for Willie Snead for like 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
So you don't have to always be the biggest, strongest, and fastest. But, yeah, he's a guy that potentially, just because of quickness, could always create opportunities for himself. I like some of the things I saw from him. Jaden Higgins had some good reps. Jalen Noel had some good reps.
Xavier Restrepo?
Well, I mean, yeah, everyone talks about him, but yeah, here's what I will say.
He had some drops, which we did not see on.
There was a few drops, but I mean, here's the most of the thing, right? He is literally your literal classic, like, dictionary slot receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got that thick, powerful build. He can break tackles, arm tackles, right? If you throw an arm out there, he's gonna run right through it. And, he fits certain places. But if you, especially, once again, another guy I think is gonna have a good 3-cone, good throw, and probably not blow your mind in the 40.
Yeah.
That's another guy that I sort of think about as a stepper. But, yeah, I mean, especially if he really embraces special teams, he'll have a job for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talented, right? It's just, I just don't think he's a guy who's gonna just run past people in the NFL.
It was weird, man. Like, I feel like with a lot of the wide receivers who are mid rounds, like everyone you were watching, you see like a highlight play, like, ooh, and then you see the next one, like, ooh. It'd be like just a combination of it all. I mean, like you'd see a good rep from Tesla, and you'd see a bad rep, and it would just be like a combination. I don't think like anybody was literally like dominating from a wide receiver standpoint, where they were just like winning the day every single week.
Right, I mean, Restrepo was
Yeah.
by as close,
Yeah.
and they say a few drops, I think it was concentration drops,
Yeah.
not like he wasn't able to catch the ball, but just, maybe he's looking upfield.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not used to the tempo of these passes, from these quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe the pass is, just not where he was expecting, or when he was expecting it.
Exactly. There's certainly a lot of late releases from
Yeah, that was a reoccurring theme
Yes.
throughout, I mean, not just team stuff, like even things with like.
7-on-7, like there's no pressure, and you guys are holding onto the ball for 4,
Yeah.
5, 6
I was,
seconds.
I was not pleased with
Yeah,
that, I'll be honest.
it was funny to me. It was cracking me up. I was watching down. There were 2 live reps with TikTok. One of the tight ends was sitting there, and he was just waiting so long. He just got tired and turned around, and then that's right when they threw the ball at him.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the timing is going to be off.
Yeah, of
It's-
course.
It's an all-star game with very compressed, practice schedule, but I've been here enough times to know that it doesn't always look like that.
Yeah.
So I can assure you, it doesn't always look like that. There's been times it looks much cleaner. And each year is different, right?
Yeah.
Last year we had like exceptional group of quarterbacks. There have been years when the quarterbacks are not inspiring, but this was a nice, this is a nice blend, right? Not at quarterbacks, but a nice blend across the board of players who are already really well known, really highly thought of, and guys who are trying to, establish a place for themselves. And there's some guys who are probably practice squad guys here, and there's some guys who, bang around at the bottom of a roster between that 46th and 53rd guy for a while. But yeah, I think we saw a couple of guys who are going to be solid contributors even early on there. Really.
But it's funny, I was telling you this yesterday. I actually went through and looked at it today. In terms of just like everything always being different. Like just using the Senior Bowl alone versus like last year when I did the full spreadsheet for the combine. In the full combine coverage, there was only 2 players sub 7 wingspan. And then just at this Senior Bowl alone, there were 2 already here. Like it's just different. It's different every year.
It is different.
And the big thing that you were harping on even before that was hand size.
Yeah,
A lot of
hands.
9-inch hands.
Yeah, like last year, you kind of saw more of a blend. I wouldn't have the exact percentages, but you would probably see like 50-50 with like 10s to 9s. The one that really stuck out that people are going to talk about is Jalen Milrow, obviously. Before I was back up.
Yep.
He,
Somewhat Kenny Pickett is clapping.
he had 8'6", 6'8" inches.
Right, and that
Yeah.
might be part of what he's dealing with, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't have huge hands. I mean, I think I'm 5'7" and 5'8", and I'm 8 3/8. So that gives you an idea. That's 3/8 of an inch more, and he's 6'1" and 220 pounds. And that, like I said, part of his struggles might just be, and they're using an NFL ball here, right? Yeah, they are. So that's the other thing. Now, hopefully these guys have been working with coaches who've gotten them using the NFL ball the last few weeks, so they don't, for the first time see one here. But hand size, while it's not everything, definitely matters when it comes to controlling the football.
Yeah.
So that could be part of Milrow's issues. And yes, I mean, there's a lot to clean up the campus before. Before we close out, are there any sort of, I'll start with you, Jordan, things that you wish you'd seen that you didn't see, or surprises, things that sort of you weren't expecting, or things that you were expecting but didn't get?
I mean, obviously, the saddest part of it is everybody locked out at the last minute.
Yes.
That sucked for all of us. Sucked for the players, I'm sure, as well. I wish we would have seen more one-on-one reps, like just more like a one-on-ones, offensive, defensive linemen just going against each other. I mean, I felt like that was the heart of the Senior Bowl roster, and just to like, I mean, we still got some of it, but just to be able to see it consistently all 3 days would have been fun. I think in terms of just like players and wanting to see more, I wish we would have seen like a highlight wide receiver just like stick out, like somebody just like be a headliner almost.
Yeah, like big shot.
Because it felt like it was like wide open for anyone to pick that.
He dug out.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
And-
a solid performance.
And ironically, it becomes Arroyo. It's like,
Yeah.
like,
Best receiver of the year.
Arroyo.
Yeah, right.
I think that was fun. The quarterbacks are really interesting interesting because they would be spotty. It was just really like a lot of spottiness, like from almost every position except you would see the D line just start dominating. The offensive line start dominating, like and it was really fun too because like I feel like early on the interior was getting beat a lot, and then like as it came to more further, the interior started dominating towards week day 3. You wouldn't even see as much beating. And yeah, still staying on bands are up. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, and that's a good guy to have, right?
Yeah.
And he's young. I think he's one of the younger guys, if I remember correctly too. I know there's like 2 or 3 guys who are like 21 here. And then there's a couple guys who are like 12, almost 25, or whatever, 24. I know that, Keandre, who I like, is an older prospect, and then, so is Quincy. A couple of my guys are old guys. But yeah, that's sort of my guy, right? Quincy was the guy who was bothering everybody about, and then he came and had a really good week. So I was glad that thank you, Quincy, for coming through. Because it makes me look, what I'm talking about. I think that some teams are gonna go back and look, right, at his tape and find some things to like. He had some good games too on tape. He was, he's got the ball hawking, he's physical, 5'10", 3'8", 192 pounds, so that's, not for everybody, I guess. If you want a giant corner, you've got Darian Corder, right, he's huge, if that's what you're into. Trey Amos was another big corner, he went home early.
Thomas, yeah.
Right, Thomas is a giant corner too, he's another big kid. That's the Nebraska kid? No, Tommy.
FSU.
Yeah, but Nebraska kid is huge too.
Tommy Hill, yeah.
Yeah, he's a giant corner too. And so there's a few giant corners here, if that's what you're looking for. The giant corners struggle a little bit because, when you get somebody, like we talked about, Williams, someone's got to snap it off, and you're like, if you've got like a 34-inch inseam, that's not good for you. So, yeah, some of those guys struggle with that part of the game, but, yeah, I think, if you're looking for something outside of quarterbacks, you probably found something you like. What's your sort of, thing that you either wish you'd seen that you didn't, or a thing that surprised you that you did see?
So I kind of wished I saw a little bit more was, unfortunately with one team's practices, they tended to do a lot of stretches in the time, a lot of like positional drills, which certainly are useful in a more NFL prep sense, but in terms of evaluating the talent of these players, it just did not do enough for us, and so it felt like the media and talent evaluation just stuck watching a practice or like the start of a training camp where we're just like getting to know all these guys, rather than, all right, what can these guys do for in these various different concepts? So, and how do they match up against each other? That was a little frustrating for pretty large portions of, especially the last 2 practice days.
Yeah. I know it's a crazy idea, but what I would do if ever someone makes me the head of an all-star game, is do the meaty stuff first, if the guys are hot, sweaty, tired.
Yeah.
Then, let them stretch and do all that good stuff, and then some of the people who are, not really like hardcore football people, just want to talk to players and leave anyway.
Yeah.
So they can do their thing, talk to players, and, get back to whatever it is they'd be doing otherwise, and then the hardcore people can stay for the practice, and heck, even dynamic stretching, and, you ever feel a little like hamstring scaling, like, oh, that guy's a little tight,
Get the calisthenics going.
Right, and then you see which guys are like really flexible, like, oh man, look how high that guy's going.
I certainly do appreciate the fact that it's trying to do injury prevention. It's trying to make sure that these guys are in the best shape as they can for the game itself as well. But at the same time, that's stuff that can be done at the very beginning of practices rather than breaking up the middle of practice.
That I thought was strange, was
Yeah.
doing it like, 40 minutes in.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Like, I wasn't a great player, but I played, we would practice, we would stretch at the beginning.
It's not that they did it, it's just that's time.
The timing was a little
Yes.
odd too, yeah, I'll agree. Well, once again, football season. Who brought down from like down on high the spreadsheet that Bill Gates himself has partaken of.
Oh.
It is a beautiful thing. It is. It's
He has
really-
it.
So, Jordan, my name is still unfit.
Yes,
It has been a real pleasure. Like I said, I feel like I knew you without knowing you, and now I know you know you,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
even better. And then, of course, Jay, you're my guy, right?
Of course.
You're my guy. You've been my guy. You're my guy even more than ever before. And eat it, Matt.
Matt, where are you?
Matt, are you avoiding me? This is another event where it was scheduled out, and I know things happen, babysitters, car troubles, life in general.
Life in general.
Hey,
But I miss you, man. I need to meet you, my friend.
don't worry, I'm putting it on the milk carton.
There we go. So for Draft Nerds, for Zinny60 Media, for
Stampede Blue.
there you go,
Yes.
Stampede Blue. Do you have one? Do you want to see it?
I'm trying to make one though.
Amazon.
Shout out to RT9, you know?
Or my future YouTube channel.
There you go.
Unnamed yet, but we have some ideas floating around.
Okay,
Robin.
Okay,
But
well,
yeah, so there you go. And once again, one last shout out for Shield Yates for shouting out my boy and his friendship.
Yeah, shout out to Yates, thank you.